TIR dash I trill FLIJM, K, till HI, dash II Signs and Wonders, the discovery of the Hale-Bopp comet, a major theme of Art Bell's radio programs, and of After Dark, is what Art likes to call the quickening, the rapidly increased rate of change in nearly every aspect of life on Earth, technological, political, economic, cultural, all apparently leading us toward a gigantic change of some sort. One of the most fascinating areas of change is that of physical Earth changes themselves. For instance, Gordon Michael Scallion's earthquake predictions have for months riveted the attention of Art's audience. In this context, therefore, Art and his listeners have enjoyed discussing the newly discovered Hale-Bopp comet, both for its intrinsic astronomical interest, and for the great conversation generated by contemplating the prospect, however remote, of a giant comet hitting the Earth and smashing it to smithereens. This photo of Hale-Bopp, named after its two discoverers, was taken by Dave Harvey on August 2, 1995 from Kitt Peak using the Steward Observatory's 90-inch telescope. For you technical folks, a Loral 2KX2K CCD was exposed for 30 seconds while the telescope tracked the comet. Field of view, approximately 4x4 arc minutes. Congratulations, Tom. In case you've ever wondered how comets are discovered, it's usually by amateur astronomers, not professionals, and how the discoverers feel about their good fortune. Here is what Thomas Bopp says about discovering the comet that now bears his name. On the night of July 22, 1995, some friends and I headed out into the desert for a dark of the moon observing SES, the Hale-Bopp comet, 1,000 miles in diameter, as photographed. The moment Jim said we might have something, excitement began to grow among our group and I breathed a silent prayer thanking God for his wondrous creation. Thomas Bopp, co-discoverer of the Hale-Bopp comet Zion. The site, which is west of Stanfield, Arizona and a few miles south of Interstate 8, is about 90 miles southwest of my home. My friend Jim Stevens had brought his 17-1/2 Dobsonian. We started the evening observing some of the messy objects such as the Vale and North American nebulae in Cygnus, when Jim said, "Let's look at some of the globulars in Sagittarius." We started our tour with M22 and M28, observing at SOX and on August 7, 1995 by Dave Harvey at the Steward Observatory, then at 180X. Around 11 o'clock local time, we had M70 in the field when Jim went to the charts to determine the next object of investigation. I continued watching M70 slowly drift across the field, and when it reached a point 3/4 of the way across, a slight glow appeared on the eastern edge. I repositioned the scope to center on the new object, but was unable to resolve it. I called to Jim and asked him if he knew what it might be. After a visual inspection he stated he wasn't familiar with it, but would check the charts. After determining the general position of the object he was unable to find it on either Sky Atlas 2000.0 or Uranimetria. The moment Jim said we might have something, excitement began to grow among our group and I breathed a silent prayer thanking God for his wondrous creation. My friend Kevin Gill then took a position from his digital setting circles and estimated a magnitude. Continued on page 16, letters from listeners, articulations all in the family. Dear Art, I am writing to tell you how much I appreciate your program and why. You have heard all the accolades. They hold true for me as well. I will not take your time by repeating them. There is an additional reason. I have not heard it mentioned before, even though I am a 2+ year listener and hardcore fan. It is this: you have created a family of listeners. You bring us into your home, your life, and your personal world as often as you share your beliefs and reactions to events, close and far, that may affect us. Your listeners respond to this. It is what makes you and your show unique, and you lovable. Yes. You are like a favorite uncle who comes to visit often. You are honest, serious, fun-loving, and compassionate, yet also insistent upon integrity, both yours and ours. We look forward to your visits, and wait impatiently in the front yard for you to arrive. When you do, always on time and with a grand smile on your face and a treat or surprise in your pocket, we lead you into the living room so we can sit with you, breathless, waiting for your stories and your reactions to the day. We do not always believe your stories. We are prone to question your observations and conclusions. We enjoy seeing how we can take you on, a means to judge our own maturity and ability for reasoned discourse. Sometimes we get too rambunctious and sense the frown that flicks across your brow. Sometimes your tiredness is reflected in a burdened air. Sometimes you dismiss us with a flick of the hand, slight but mighty in its impact. But we come back. And so do you. Together we sit again by the fireside to chat and exchange our thoughts, mutual respect, and basic caring for our companions. There are many in this family. Some are like the crazy ant that roams the darkened hallways, to emerge from shadows speaking her version of the truth but having missed the point of current conversation. Others have one tiresome point to make, applying it to every situation, thinking then that it is new. But they, too, are family, and are accepted simply for what they are, even when your irritation slips through guarded speech. And then there is Charlie. A walking contradiction. Who shows up almost daily to give his point of view while lamenting how ignorant we are, wondering how we could possibly comprehend the truth. Who states how compassionate he is while speaking of us only with disdain and disrespect. Who asserts how empathic he is, while seldom comprehending another's point of view. Who prides himself on his comprehensive worldview while berating all lifestyles and cultures that give voice to philosophical and political positions that differ from his own. Ah, yes. Charlie. I only wish that he could read this, too. Little does he know. He assumes that only hardcore radical conservative Republicans could disagree with him. I would love to see his face as he reads that this writer is a registered Democrat with 2 graduate degrees in the behavioral sciences from the hotbed of liberalism, the University of Wisconsin-Madison, during the radical 1960s. Little does he know that every time I hear him speak I cringe. Or that I would not hire Charlie for any task, for any reason, because of his appalling public relations skills as evidenced on the air. Or that the Democratic Party no longer speaks for me, a sad fact that is supported daily by his calls. Every time Charlie speaks I swear that tomorrow I must re-register my political affiliation. And that the mere sound of his voice, strident and unforgiving, a sound that is repeated endlessly by liberals across the land, ratchets me one more notch toward the right. Tonight I thought I even noticed some sunburn on my neck. Ah, yes, Charlie. There is much for you to learn. Still, thanks for taking the time to call. So, Art, thank you for the world you share with us. Thanks for the family. Robert M. Lewis, PhD Doc on the Bay in KOGOI and After Dark page 2 IIIL from the High Desert. Hiroshima, no guilt now that a little time has passed, a final word about Hiroshima. By Art Bell. Americans were frightened and outraged. The guilt-mongering began from what U.S. News and World Report called the left. Long before Hiroshima, the left's agenda had been to blame America for just about everything. Hiroshima simply gave them an ugly symbol to use in convincing the world, and fellow citizens, that Americans were in fact ugly Americans. Let's look at what our critics tend to ignore. Let's look at Japanese guilt. World War II was truly a horrible war, and Japan was very much a part of that horror. It is only by a strategic trick of fate that the Japanese weren't vilified. The dropping of the bomb brought about 2 major negative transitions. It began the atomic age when people started living in fear of a nuclear holocaust. And it was also the beginning of an era of American guilt when young people were, decade by decade, generation by generation, taught that America was practically a war criminal. We had introduced the world to an inhuman weapon, letting the Bataan March will forever nuclear genie out of the bottle. Before I defend the use of the be remembered as a creative bomb, let's be clear. The bombing of Way to Kill Off Pause, and then Hiroshima and Nagasaki was a truly horrendous event. In a truly horrendous there were the Korean War. One moment a city was teeming comfort women who were with activity, children at play, moms and dads busy in all the usual ways. In nothing more nor less than sex the next moment came a blinding flash, slaves for the Japanese, and suddenly, hell took higher ground, soldiers. This was not a nice exploding all normalcy in an instant. My God, what have we done, was bunch of folks, but that's not the famous line as the crew of the Enola Gay watched the city below turn the only reason for the bomb into what one witness described as the atrocities, at least those wee bubbling molasses soup. The world knew of, just made it easier. Had never seen such power and pure horror in a weapon of war. I don't need to say much more. You as much as the Nazis. Those who know the stories of skin falling off and about Unit 731 know that the Japanese people rushing to the nearby river were capable of dehumanizing enemies, many drowning just to find relief with the best of them. Logs was from the horrible burning, the human way they referred to the prisoners, they shaped silhouettes left behind on walls experimented on, and their exprius the only memory of the people who ments included injecting paws with had been vaporized in the first seconds biological agents and then cutting open of the blast. The city of Hiroshima there live, unanesthetized victims too, and Nagasaki 3 days later, just pull out their infected organs for fear about cease to exist, all with their testing. Many of the Japanese dropping of one crude atomic device. Doctors involved in Unit 731 came, the Japanese were stunned and, out of their best medical schools and corps, that was the point. The world was also stunned. Never apparently, most never showed much regret over their actions. In world history had a power shift in Asia, the Japanese were in fay occurred so quickly. America's friends Mao's, not for Pearl Harbor but for the rejoiced at her new power, the world rape of Nanjing where thousands of was now saved for democracy. However, Japanese soldiers slaughtered 100,000 our enemies, including many after dark, page 3 to 200,000 men, women, and children. The Bataan March will forever be remembered as a creative way to kill off PAWs, and then there were the Korean comfort women who were nothing more nor less than sex slaves for the Japanese soldiers. This was not a nice bunch of folks, but that's not the only reason for the bomb. The atrocities, at least those we knew of, just made it easier. Japan was a cult-like nation made up of people who worshipped their emperor as a god, and felt honored to die for him in whatever way he deemed necessary. The Japanese also considered other peoples as subhuman. This made the Japanese a ferocious enemy capable not only of cruel acts of violence, but also of relentless self-sacrifice in carrying out their cruelties. In over 40 campaigns not one Japanese military unit surrendered. In their code, suicide was far preferable to any kind of surrender, not to mention the unconditional surrender demanded by the Allies. An invasion of Japan itself would have been bloody. Estimated losses, both Japanese and American, were huge. The Japanese resistance would have been all the more ferocious since there was nowhere left for them to go. Famous and widely read, ancient Chinese military philosopher Sun Tzu warned against battle plans that allowed the enemy no route of retreat. We understood that wisdom, and so did the Japanese. A fight to the death is a desperate fight, and they were preparing to defend their home islands. This nation of 100 million, including 2 million regular troops, was ready, willing, and able to fight to the death against an Allied invasion. They needed to be shocked into submission. Continued on page 16, TII feature article, an interview with Alan Keyes. If I were Bob Dole right now, I'd be seriously worried. UID Alan Keyes be this nation's first black president. A few weeks ago Art kicked off Coast to Coast AM by interviewing Ambassador Keyes, who is indeed a candidate for the 1996 Republican presidential nomination. Host of his own national radio talk show, The Alan Keyes Show, America's Wake Up Cal, Keyes served as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Economic and Social Council under President Ronald Reagan, from 1981 to 1987, and later as Assistant Secretary of State for International Organizations. Owing government service, Keyes was president of the government watchdog group Citizens Against Government Waste. Twice nominated for the U.S. Senate in Maryland, Keyes is author of Masters of the Dream, The Strength and Betrayal of Black America. 1 T, T \QT, U\0 methyl F of umrit Q art, Ambassador Keys, why do you want to be president? Keys, I got into the race mainly out of concern over the assault that was being mounted against, number 1, the pro-life plank in the Republican platform and, number 2, the strong commitment the party has had to stand up for what I believe are the key issues in the country affecting the moral and material environment for the marriage-based family. Those issues, which were very important in the 1994 election, have been put on the back burner by some of the leadership in the party. I began to articulate in a forthright fashion my concerns about that, and the response I got from around the country encouraged me to believe that a lot of people in the Republican Party believe these issues need to be addressed. They are insisting that the real moral crisis of this country be put front and center, and that we have to address it or we're not going to be able to deal. In the last 20 or 30 years we've redefined freedom in terms of will, choice, convenience and self-gratification, with no sense at all that there are any constraints or responsibilities that go along with it, with many of the other problems we are facing. Art, what is your own assessment of the race? Alan Keys, Pat Buchanan. Nearly everybody except Bob Dole seems like a long shot. Keys, I think this race is wide open, and I don't understand why people are being taken in by early numbers based mostly on name recognition. If I were Bob Dole right now, I'd be seriously worried. His position in the last several months has done nothing but erode. He started out as a front runner in the mid-50s, he's now a front runner tending toward the mid-40s. Art, Ambassador, you gave a speech recently on C-SPAN that electrified a After Dark page for a lot of people. I had a lot of calls on this program about it. People were very excited. What was the genesis of that speech? See excerpt of speech on next page. Keys, I was just articulating what a lot of people feel, that we have been dealing with our problems in this country for a long time as if we could throw money at them, and that they were the result of economic factors and money problems. Yet, it is increasingly clear that those problems are related to phenomena that have at their root moral rather than material causes. Mainly, the collapse of the marriage-based family, due, I believe, to the adoption of a corrupt concept of freedom that actually contradicts the moral and emotional attitudes that are needed to sustain family life. Art, how do you believe the definition of freedom has been corrupted? Keys, freedom is defined in the Declaration of Independence as based on the idea that unalienable rights come from God. If your rights come from God, they must be respected out of respect for God's authority, and also exercised in a way that preserves and respects that authority. So the understanding of freedom is naturally tempered with a sense of respect and responsibility toward the authority from which they come. In the last 20 or 30 years we've redefined freedom in terms of will, choice, convenience and self-gratification, with no sense at all that there are any constraints or responsibilities that go along with it. And that, I think, is epitomized in this doctrine of abortion, where freedom is defined in such a way that you need not respect even the basic principles of freedom itself. That ends up being self-destructive, because when freedom is defined in such a way that it can be exercised so as to destroy its own premises, it comes to an end. Art, let's see how pro-life you are. If a 16-year-old girl is raped, no abortion, Ambassador. Keys, no abortion. The rape incest exceptions have no ground in principle. You cannot punish an innocent human being for the sins of one of its parents. And the notion that you can take the life of an innocent child because the father is guilty of rape is, I think, a travesty of justice. Art, what about the psychological survival of the victim in this case? Keys, well, I think you would want to do everything you can, but in the context of that moral universe. I think the militias are being demonized as part of the campaign to demonize gun ownership overall. The mother would also understand that the innocent life of the child is not to be abused for the sake of the father. That moral balance would, properly counseled, prevent psychological damage from being permanent. Art, a tougher case, incest. Keys, same argument holds. You cannot punish the child for the sins of his parents. After discussing abortion a while longer, Art expanded his line of questioning to encompass many major world issues. First stop, Bosnia. Keys, I don't understand why it is that we are insisting on taking measures supposedly to defend enclaves and so forth, when we won't take the decisive step of lifting the arms embargo and letting the Bosnian govtors in the eye and tell them that it is somehow consistent with freedom. Freedom isn't free. Art Bell referred to an electrifying speech made by Alan Keyes for them to trample on the human rights of their unborn offspring. Earlier this year. It was at a February 19, 1995 dinner sponsored by the New Hampshire Republican State Committee that Alan Keyes made the following comments, telecast by C-SPAN, that have provoked such an emotional reaction in so many Americans. Ambassador Alan Keyes, we have heard a lot of people tonight, they talk about the money and they talk about the budget, but you and I both know, if we're willing to look ourselves in the eye, what the truth is. Why is it that we spend so much money on welfare and illegitimacy? Why is it that we spend so much money on crime and violence in our streets? Why is it, even, that we spend so much money dealing with the problems of irresponsible behavior that contribute to the decline of the health of this nation? I think you all know in your hearts what the real answer is. We don't have money problems. We have moral problems, and it's time we stood up and faced that truth. But, I don't know how we're going to face that truth if, as was suggested here today, we can look we're going to have to find the courage, one of these days, to tell people that freedom is not an easy discipline. Freedom is not a choice for those who are lazy in their hearts and in their respect for their own moral capacities. Freedom requires that, at the end of the day, you accept the constraint that is required, a respect for the laws of nature and nature's God that say unequivocally that your daughters do not have the right to do what is wrong, that our sons do not have the right to do what is wrong. They do not have the right to steal bread from the mouths of the innocent. They do not have the right to steal life from the womb of the unborn. Some people may say that if we stand up and speak out and we fight for that principle, we'll be dividing the Republican Party, but I don't think so. This party is born on a clear commitment to principle. This party was born of those who had the courage to stand before the American people and, in the face of the threat of a greater division than we'll ever face, insist that we had to respect the principles that make us great, the principles that make us strong, the principles that make us free. And, I'll tell you, we're going to have to do it again. We are not going to remain a free people if we insist on being a After Dark. Page 5 RF1 Me FJF. Go IIWMMPU 62 /TIQFM.1 Earnment defend itself. Art, dead right. Keyes, it doesn't make any sense, this whole UN policy of maintaining a military imbalance that encourages the Serbs to continue the war in the belief that their military advantage will lead to victory. They won't lift the arms embargo, they perpetuate that situation, and then they send in so-called peacekeepers to defend people who could defend themselves, by way of not defending them, because they can't shoot. And ICMF and GN6, they don't do anything. Art, even the liberal Joe Biden was standing on the Senate floor saying, genocide. 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 It is genocide, and if anything, I almost feel part of it. Keyes, I think they've been set up, though. In a situation like that, the worst thing you can do is to leave one side disarmed in the face of the other, so that it cannot defend itself even when it has the will and moral wherewithal, which I think the Bosnians certainly do. Art, about the current congressional hearings. Is there anything, in your opinion, in the Whitewater or Waco hearings that would disable the president? Keyes, I would say that nothing that comes out in the Waco hearings is going to damage the president. It ought to seriously damage Janet Reno, but then what has already come out should have resulted in her resignation. The question of whether David Koresh did at some point abuse children does not then solve the question of whether Janet Reno made a correct judgment when they stormed that compound in a way that, I think, they could have been reasonably certain was going to result in the destruction of life. Did they have a proper foundation and basis for taking that step? All the evidence that has come out so far suggests they did not. The extent of Bill Clinton's incompetence needs to be made clear. If he was involved and did authorize the final assault, then he bears the ultimate responsibility for that disaster. If he was not involved, that is a clear indication of incompetence, since he should have been. That was, after all, a situation in which you had the lives of 85 Americans, including children, at stake, where the government was heavily involved. Corrupt and licentious people. That if we, as Republicans abandon that line of principle, we are not going to remain a free people if we arrogate to ourselves surely be abandoned in America. But I can so tell you this in the right to destroy the rights of others, and that's exactly what we are warning, that if you abandon that kind of principle there are doing when we embrace the so-called pro-choice, the truly pro-Americans who will fight few or many, we must to abortion agenda. Make sure that it prevails. My friends, I think it's empty to praise the courage of the men, and at every point in our history, when we had the choice between women who have died in the service of this country's freedom and its right and wrong, in the end this country chose what was right and we principles, and yet decide that we shall lack the can be grateful for it. And I think we shall do it courage to stand up for those principles many or again, because we know that the real heroes in at every point in our history, few, or even alone if we must, because that is, in America, are those who in their families and in when we had the choice between their daily lives, respect the truth that we must fact, the courage that built America. This nation is not, as some would have us right and wrong, in the end this meet the obligations and sacrifices of freedom believe, a dream of material progress and prose country chose what was right and before we can claim its privilege sand benefits. Parity and great cities and mountains of money. It and that means, as well, that come what we can be grateful for it. And I was not. I'm glad that we have achieved that, may even if it means that we must sacrifice and think we shall do it again. Prosperity, even though it came at much expense our personal lives we have to stand where are to some of my forebears. But I'll tell you some founders a student they believe that you can not have thing, those who toiled in the depths of slavery they had and under the right to do what is wrong, but that, if we build self-government standing of the real dream of American freedom. It's the dream of on the true adherence to the peril one sophistus, then we shall hold moral dignity that comes from respecting our true moral capacity, up a beacon of light and hope for and of humankind to understand the I think you know by now, looking at the Clinton administration, true destiny of mankind. 3 After Dark page 6. Shin of this society. The drug prob. If Bill Clinton was not keeping himself abreast of it and informed, Lem in America is an aspect of the and if he had not left instructions that moral collapse of the country. If you have a citizenry that has a decent before any final decision was made he was to be involved, then he's in respect for itself, drug abuse would incompetent who certainly ought to not be a serious problem. People be removed from office in the next would realize that it is incompatible and inconsistent with the rational election. Exercise of their freedoms. We don't art, what is your position on gun control? Have that sense of a strong moral because it's no longer keys. I'm a strong supporter of the identity, Second Amendment. The whole gun being inculcated in our children. We need an effective interdiction control agenda is actually based on a program that cuts false premise the down the flow of notion that human we have built drugs although you beings are not can't cut it comsable for their acts, but wonderful computers, instead they're instructedly off, since and yet we act as if we demand creates its ments are. I think can't keep our children that's an absurd denial own supply. So you have to look at the of the human moral out of bed with demand side and capacity and account each other that has to be based ability. Gun control is on education. But wrong, not only in not education based on this notion principle but in fact because empira people the danger of Cali, it doesn't have any impact on of teaching drugs. That has to be an element, crime, it's a phony solution for a real but the key element has to be the problem. Art. Your take on the malicious and moral rearmament, particularly of our young people. The investigations. Art, events are accelerating politize, I think that's partly economic, in every sector of phony issue. If there are people who are involved with real law-breaking society. I've been calling it the and real crimes, then investigate quickening. You're calling it immoral those crimes and deal with the law degeneration. Are they the same things, are they related? Breaking. The mere fact that people keys, well, yes, and no are part of the militias and are exer sometimes I think we can be too sissing their Second Amendment with how times have rights, if they do so within the law, impressed is not an issue at all. One think the changed. I guess I believe that the more things change, the more they militias are being demonized as part remain the same. In point of fact, we of the campaign to demonize gun don't face a problem today that hates ownership overall. Art, what would President Allen T. been with human beings since we have built keys do about the drug war? Almost time immemorial. Wonderful computers, and yet we act everybody agrees that what we are is if we can't keep our children out doing right now is not working. A bed with each other. Yet this was there had been a call for a national skill that even the most primitive referendum on drugs legalize them societies mastered several thousand or get really tough. What do you think? Years ago. Keys, I don't think you can legalize drugs, because to legalize would be a grant of permission that would, I think, just add an element that completes the moral destruction. Dark Page 7 After Dark Editor-in-Chief Art Bell Editor David Kupelian Art Director David B. Masters Political Editor Robert R. Just Copy Editor Dorothy Baker Business Manager Alan Corbett Contributing Writers Art Bell David Kupelian Alan Corbett Systems Manager Brian B. Saylor Research Brad Puchel Adrian Puchel Pre-Press Production Digital Media Incorporated Order After Dark, call 1-800-917-4278 Subscription, $29.95 per year. Send correspondence After Dark C/O Chancellor to, Broadcasting Co. 744 East Pine Street Central Point Oregon 97502 Ordering line for Art Bell merchandise tapes, 1-800-917-4278 and, Artifacts and Anomalies The Art Gallery Less Than Lethal? One result of the Waco hearings is the recognition by federal law enforcement agencies that they cannot kill Americans, even unsavory or law-breaking Americans, with impunity. Therefore, reportedly under development is a new generation of high-tech LTL weapons, less than lethal, capable of disabling or disorienting targeted individuals or even crowds. LTL systems under development reportedly include, the sticky foam gun, fueled by pressurized nitrogen, range 100 yards, which shoots a stream of highly adhesive soft plastic foam that envelopes and immobilizes its targets. A project code-named Lifeguard that uses a combination of sophisticated infrared sensors to detect the firing of a gun. Millimeter wave sensors capable of finding any gun, metallic or plastic, no matter how well concealed. Sophisticated stun grenades capable of leaving protesters and other malcontents disoriented even after they recover consciousness from the small bomb's blast. High-powered electromagnetic generators that can interfere with human brain waves by short-circuiting its synapses. Such technology, critics allege, could be used to disorient entire crowds or to manipulate individuals into self-destructive acts. Above, Max, below, Art Bell's The J After Dark Page 8 Crystal Studio Skull. Dreamland with Art Bell Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell Live Monday Program #1. IJ, Friday JJPM Guest and Topic -4 AM Pacific Date Live Hours Cost 930619C9309004C931030 CAI-Bilakai/Philadelphia Experiment June 19, 93 5 hours John Lear, UFO September 4, 93 5 hours Annual Ghost Show 10/30/930 5 hours 931123 C931208 C940108 C940312 C940318 C940408 C940415 C940427 C940429 C November 23, 93 Linda Thompson/Waco I Richard Hoagland/Mars Observer December 8, 93 Linda Thompson/Waco 2 January 8, 94 AI Bielek 11/Philadelphia Experiment 03/12/94 Linda Thompson/Waco 3 March 18, 94 Charles Duke/ Sovereignty Measure 04/08/94 Lori Toy /prophesies and New Age April 15, 94 L. Thompson and Agent X /Waco for April 27, 94 Mark McCandlish /UFOs April 29, 94 3 hours 4 hours 5 hours 4 hours 5 hours 2 hours 3 hours 5 hours 5 hours 940502 C. L. Thompson /Waco v. Revolution 940506 C. Ron Engelman /Waco 940,511 C. Wally Kennett /Branch Davidian 940520 C. David Aikman /Revolution May 2nd, 94 2 hours May 6th, 94 3 hours May 11th, 94 3 hours OS/20 94 3 hours 940527 C. 940607 C. 940608 C. 940610 C. Preston Nichols Montauk Project Richard Hoagland Mars Vance Davis GI Ouija Predictions Sean Morton Predictions OS/27 94 June 7th, 94 June 8th, 94 June 10th, 94 940623 C. 940624 C. Sheriff Arpaio Citizens Posse June 23rd, 94 Kevin Randall UFO Crash at Roswell 06/24 94 2 hours 940630 C. 940715 C. 950718 C. 940831 C. 940902 C. Lori Nichols Clinton Chronicles June 30th, 94 Robert Pappalardo Jupiter Collision July 15th, 94 Richard Hoagland Jupiter Collision July 18th, 94 Don McAlvany Being Prepared August 31st, 94 John Lear UFO September 2nd, 94 2 hours 3 hours 5 hours 3 hours 5 hours 940907 C. 940909 C. Larry Pratt Gun Owners of America September 7th, 94 Don Schmidt The Truth About Roswell 09/09/94 2 hours 940912 C. 940913 C. 941003 C. 941125 C. 941028 C. 941111 C. 941115 C. 941130 C. 941209 C. 941214 C. 950127 C. 950210 C. 950217 C. 950303 C. 950310 C. 950317 C. 950327 C. 950414 C. 950418 C. 950421 C. Russ Wagner Virtual Reality September 12th, 94 Dr. Dujeberg HIV Not Koshov AIDS 09/13 94 J. Wilkerson, J. Vasquez KGTV UFO 10/03 94 Wendy Dachau Alien Abductee October 5th, 94 Annual Ghost Show No Guest, October 28th, 94 Lindsay Williams New Diseases 11/11/94 John Hogue Prophecy November 15th, 94 Bob Fletcher Montana Militia November 30th, 94 Richard Hoagland Mars and Moon December 9th, 94 George Flint Nevada Brothels December 14th, 94 Congressman Bob Dornan January 27th, 95 G.M. Scallion Quake Predictions February 10th, 95 R. Winters Myers Case, UFOs, February 17, 95 Janet Bonney Revived Dead Chicken 03/03/95 Rop.Lux Nuclear Waste Storage March 10, 95 Michael Brown Apocalypse March 17, 95 Pat Buchanan Presidential Fund Date March 27, 95 P. Davids J. Kirby Aliens and UFOs April 14, 95 Michael Markham Time Machine April 18, 95 David Thibodeau Branch Davidian April 21, 95 2 hours 3 hours 2 hours 1 hour 5 hours 5 hours 5 hours 3 hours 5 hours 3 hours 1 hour 3 hours 5 hours 1 hour 2 hours 3 hours 1 hours 2 hours 2 hours 2 hours 3 5 2 5 hours 950502 C. Stan Polishak Defense Attorney May 2nd, 95 950505 C. Gordon Michael Scallion Prophecy May 5th, 95 950,511 C. Lindsay Williams Ebola Outbreak May 11, 95 3 hours 4 hours 4 hours 950609 C Mike X OK City Bomb Investigator 06/09 95 3 hours 950623 C Richard Hoagland Mars, Moon June 23, 95 5 hours 950,821 C Pat Combs deposited phony check August 21, 95 2 hours $32.50 $32.50 $32.50 $20.50 $26.50 $32.50 $26.50 $32.50 $14.50 $20 and 50 cents $32.50 $32.50 $14.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $32.50 $14.50 $32.50 $14.50 $14.50 $14.50 $20.50 $32.50 $20.50 $32.50 $14.50 $14.50 $14.50 $20.50 $14.50 $8.50 $32.50 $32.50 $32.50 $20.50 $32.50 $20.50 $8.50 $20.50 $32.50 $. 8.50 $14.50 $20.50 $8.50 $14.50 $14.50 $14.50 $20.50 $26.50 $26.50 $20.50 $32.50 $14.50 Visa and MasterCard call 1-800-917-4278 or mail check or money order to CRC 744 East Pine Street Central Point or 97502 program #Sundays 7 p.m. guest and topic 940501D Phil Class and Stan Friedman 940508D 940515D 940522D Pacific date hours May 1st 94 3 hours John Ronner / Guardian Angels May 8, 94 3 hours Mike Rigby / Near Death Experience May 15, 94 3 hours Sally Rail / UFOs OS / 22 / 94 3 hours 940529D. Tom Van Flanderer / 940605D 940612D, Joe PM Astronomy RW. Whitfield / Polar Shift Richard Hall / UFOs 940619 DOS / 29 / 94 3 hours June 5, 94 3 hours June 12, 94 3 hours 06 / 19 / 943 hours Dr. Chetsno / Out of Body 940626D Dr. Bruce McCabe / UFOs 940703D Michael Linderman / Aliens June 26, 94 July 3, 94 940710D July 10, 94 3 hours July 17, 94 July 24, 94 July 31, 94 3 hours 3 hours 3 hours Richard Hoagland / The Moon 940717D Robert Monroe / Out of Body 940724D John Zajic / Great Pyramid 940731D Linda House / UFOs and Aliens 940807D Sean Morton / UFOs 3 hours August 7, 94 3 hours. 940814D John Mack / Alien Abductions August 14, 94 3 hours 940, 821008 21 943 hours Dr. Carla Turner / Alien Abductions 940828D Kevin Randall / Crash at Roswell August 28, 94 940904D D Argoidberg / Past Life Regression September 4, 94 940911D Ropt Whitfield / Planetary Physics September 11, 94 3 hours 3 hours 3 hours 9 940918D 3 hours David Scotty Life After Death September 18, 94940925D Rich.Boylan/Alien Abductions 941002D Mark Davenport /Time Travel September 25, 94 3 hours October 2nd, 94 3 hours 941016/16/940 3 hours Sky Ambrose /Alien Abductee 941023 and A Kirkwood/St. Mary's Message October 23, 94 940 1030D 941106D Lee Haley/Alien Abductee October 30, 94 Katharina Wilson/Alien Abductee November 6, 94 941113D Jim Deerdorf/Eats and the Bible March 27, 94 3 hours 941120D Dave Talbot/Wordson Collision 941204D Randolph Winters/The Pleiadians 3 hours 11/20/940 3 hours December 4, 94 3 hours 941 211012/11/940 3 hours Dr. Chet Snow/Life After Death 941218D Dr. Raymond Moody/Afterlife 950108D Stanton Friedman/UFOs December 18, 94 3 hours January 8, 95 3 hours 950115D January 15, 95 Rich Sauter/Underground Bases 950122D Scallion and Linderman/Predictions January 22, 95 950129D Daryl Sim/Investigator of UFOs January 29, 95 950205D Sean Morton/Predictions 50212D Dr. Goldberg/Dreams February 5, 95 and Past Lives February 12, 95 95D219D 950226D Peter Davenport/UFOs Clifford Stone/UFOs 950305D JW McGenie's/Tesla The Inventor 950312D Michael Cremo/The Human Race 950319 DJ Maxwell/Dark Side of Religion 950326D Dr. Turi/Astrology and Predictions 950402D Bill Hamilton/UFOs 3 hours 3 hours 3 hours 3 hours 3 hours February 19, 95 February 26, 95 3 hours March 5, 95 3 hours March 12, 95 3 hours 03/19/9.53 hours 950409D 90416D 95043D 95043D 9505007D 95058D 9506004D 950611D March 26, 95 3 hours April 2, 95 3 hours Travis Walton, Mike Rogers/Aliens April 9, 95 3 hours Lee and Britt Elders/UFOs 04/16/.95 3 hours Ted Flynn/Catholic Prophecy 04/23/95 3 hours D. Emerson/ET Influencian Mars 04/30/95.3 hours Dr. Chet Snow/Dreams of Future May 7, 95 3 hours Michael Linderman/Angels OS/28/95 3 hours Melinda Leslie/Alien Abductions June 4, 95 3 hours George Knapp/UFO Investigator June 11, 95 3 hours 950618D John Rhodes/Human Reptilian 950625D John Ronner/Angels 06118/953 hours June 25, 95 3 hours 95072D 9507009D 9507116D Elaine Stevens/Recalling Past Lives July 2, 95 Greg Long/Light and Sounds July 9, 95 Dr. James Lewis/The Afterlife July 16, 95 950723D 950730D July 23, 95 July 30, 95 3 hours August 6, 95 3 hours August 13, 95 August 20, 95 3 hours Parks and Moser/Crystal Skulls Rich Sauter/Underground Bases 950806D Glenn Campbell/Area 51 950813D Sergeant/Rituals Myth and Magic 950820D Robert Morning Sky / Terra Papers After Dark Page 9 3 hours 3 hours cost $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 cents $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 $20.50 AETER Dark Priest TS The Alien Abduction Syndrome. FHNE Mack, MD, is professor of psychiatry at the Cambridge Hospital, Harvard Medical School, and founding director of the Center for Psychology and Social Change. His best-selling book, Abduction: Human Encounters with Aliens, documents the results of Dr. Mack's 4 years of intensive research and investigation into the phenomenon known as alien abduction. Out of the nearly 100 case studies Mack has done, his book focuses on 13 ordinary Americans who tell dramatic, inspiring, and remarkably similar stories: repeated visits from large-eyed beings, mysterious instruments, telepathy, invasive medical procedures, hours missing from their lives, journeys of personal transformation, and startling messages about the future. When Art Bell interviewed Dr. Mack on Dreamland, the professor first explained that out of approximately 100 case interviews he had done, 90 fit the criteria for an abduction case. Those criteria, said Mack, are that the interviewee, 1. exhibit no psychiatric motive or condition that could account for the abduction report, 2. has seen some kind of humanoid beings, 3. has been taken into an enclosure of some sort, 4. has been subjected to some sort of procedure within that enclosure, and 5. exhibits the kind of emotions that are appropriate for the things that they are reporting. With that backdrop, let's join Art Bell and Dr. John Mack for an examination of this incredible but undeniable and many say increasing phenomenon. Art, if you were to try to tick off the main similarities, out of 100 cases, does anything jump out at you? What specifics are almost identical? Mack, the nature of the terror and helplessness, and the power of it, at least when the first experiences are recalled. The lack of control, the paralysis, the feeling of helplessness, the feeling that Dr. John Mack, Harvard professor and investigator of alien abductions. When you have thousands of people reporting in great detail very similar accounts, when they themselves have not read about this, and are troubled and shocked when they hear that somebody else has had the experience, you know you are dealing with something that actually happened to people. They are being taken against their will, and floated, moved by some energy force down a corridor, out of a car, or up into the air from a playground if it's a child. It's the intense energy associated with paralysis and lack of control, fear, helplessness which is mysterious, of course, because the source of it is, to the person, quite unknown. Art, when women are raped, when people come home and find their house ransacked, they go through many emotions, and one of them is intense anger at the personal violation. I imagine there's a lot of that. Mac, there is, but it's compounded in this situation. I've defined 4 kinds of traumas that are associated with this. 1. The experience itself, to be taken against your will by little gray beings into an enclosure and being subjected to various procedures, that's traumatic in itself. 2. The person, because this is not supposed to be, learns to keep his mouth shut. Children are likely to hear, "Oh, it's just a bad dream." 3. Ontological shock. Ontology is the study of what is, of reality. When something happens to us that absolutely cannot be, we undergo what I call ontological shock. 4. Unlike most traumas, this is not over. When it's over, it can happen again. People will sometimes board up their windows, put all kinds of heavy curtains up and so on, trying to protect themselves from the next time. Again, in this culture, this is not supposed to be. We have grown up with certain ideas about what are the boundaries of reality. We can talk about God and spirit in a sort of metaphoric way, but when actual beings, actual spirits or entities enter somebody's life, we've pretty well decided in our Western culture that this can't be. Art, what about deeply religious people? How are they affected? Mac, one man who was raised as a fundamentalist Christian. Initially he thought these were demons. The people in his community said they were demons. But then he realized that they were something else, although he wasn't quite sure what. He had a relationship with these creatures, and it was something different from what his religious training had led him to believe. A lot of times when people are not familiar with the abduction syndrome, religious people will say this is the work of the devil, that God would never appear in such a strange form as humanoid beings. So they get labeled as the embodiment of demons. However, there's no particular pattern of religious background associated with this experience, or reactions to it that are associated with different religious backgrounds. This is one of the reasons, by the way, that the phenomenon seems to me to be so real and so robust, because it takes precedence over people's religious experience, as opposed to being an expression of some kind of religious background. Art, is there any indication in all of your research about what these beings want, or what the focus of their attention is during these abductions? Mac, the pattern that tends to occur has to do with some kind of reproductive joining with us. Over and over there is the description of sperm being taken from men, ova, or eggs from women, reimplantation of the fertilized egg after something has been done to it by the alien, the fetus later being removed from the women, and finally, the abductee being taken to see these hybrid offspring in the craft. So there is some kind of reproductive program here. Now, I don't take this quite as literally as some of my colleagues do. I don't know in what reality this is occurring. There is not a documented case of an actual pregnancy that was tested for and then found mysteriously to be removed. But there is no question that there are some physiological changes that occur in these women, and they do experience a fetus being taken. There's no question about that, it is not simply in their imagination. But I am very leery about saying that any of these things occur literally in our reality. After all, nobody has a picture of these hybrid beings, or the aliens at all, for that matter, that's reliable. But to the abductees, and this is not a delusion, their connection with these hybrid beings is very powerful. In fact, one of the most poignant things that a person who works with abductees can go through is to take them through the memory of being taken into the ship and confronted with a hybrid being, and being told this is yours, and asked to hold this creature and nurture it. Although they know they have no control over when they'll ever see it again, they feel they are supposed to bond with the creature or it won't do well, and it's a very real and disturbing phenomenon. They weep on my couch when we need to create an atmosphere where people feel free to speak up and report their experiences, where abductees are not so afraid that they are going to lose their jobs or be humiliated that is recalled. Another powerful part of this has to do with ecological messages. The message comes through to the abductees that you humans are treating the earth as if you owned it, as if it were here just for you to exploit and destroy, as a kind of giant marketplace to be consumed and disposed of, for the purpose of this one species that has developed the technology of agriculture, city building, and mining, basically the power to remove the surface of the earth and its resources and to destroy the earth as a living system. Over and over again the communication comes to us from these beings, and it is powerfully felt by the abductees. This can't go on. This is not yours to do this with. Art, are they saying this to us as our creators, or simply as concerned beings? Mac, often the abductees, rather than saying this is directly from the creator, will see these alien beings as emissaries from some divine source. Intermediaries is often the word they use, that are closer to the source than we are. In fact, one type, the taller luminous beings, they call light beings. But even the little grays themselves are seen as being more closely connected with the source of creation. After dark, page 11. This environmental message is a hard-edged reality that is being smashed into these abductees with tremendous power, and it shakes them up enormously. And these are not necessarily environmentalists, they are often uneducated people who hadn't previously thought about these things. One man said, "But I'm just a simple person. What am I supposed to do about the earth?" And they answered, "Well, you better find a way, because you love nature and you don't want to see the earth destroyed." He has since become very active and concerned about this issue. Another woman that got this message began teaching about ecology in the classroom, and getting other teachers to include it in their courses. Another man who had a very powerful abduction experience at age 9, which deeply filled his mind with images of the destruction of the earth, has become one of the most extraordinary businessmen, in terms of his commitment to the sustainability of the Earth's living systems. Art, in the abduction cases you have studied, how many have involved children? Mac, I have seen about 8 or 10 children now who have the syndrome. By the way, Art, this is one of the reasons it is very difficult to utilize any fancy personality theory to explain the abduction story, because it would be difficult to apply such theories to children as young as 2-1/2. When a little boy, as a case of mine did, says, "Mommy, the owls came in the night because the big eyes on them make children think of owls," or, "Mommy, the little men came in the night and you didn't stop them," and they say it with fear, it's hard to attribute that to some sort of deep-seated personality problem. Art, Dr. Mac, I'd like to ask you about your critics. You're in a very prestigious position, you've really got your neck out. What made you stick your neck out, and now that it's out, how do you handle your critics? Mac, I get criticized from all directions. The serious critics are the ones that say that you can't prove this with physical evidence, therefore you can't claim that anything extraordinary is going on here. My answer to that is, we have to expand our notions of evidence. My strong suit is clinical diagnosis. When you have thousands of people reporting in great detail very similar AC counts, about which they themselves are skeptical, when they themselves have not read about this, and are troubled and shocked when they hear that somebody else has had the experience, when they tell their narratives reluctantly, you know you are dealing with something that actually happened to people. That's not the way psychosis works, or dreams work, or displacements from other kinds of traumas. Art, Doctor, if you were asked for physical evidence to prove most psychiatric diagnosis, it would not be possible, would it? Mac, that's right, but the thing I've said over and over again regarding this is that this cannot be in our worldview. The universe cannot contain intelligences that behave like this. We don't believe there are intelligences other than that which is part of the human imagination. So what are we to believe when these beings show up as real and enter our physical world? In some cases people are witnessed to be missing during the abduction. In some there are the whole variety of physical findings we are familiar with, cuts, scoop marks, complex patterned ulcers and other lesions on people's bodies that follow the abduction experiences. In addition, there is a very tight association with UFOs here. The UFO may be observed in the community, when the abductee hasn't seen it himself. I have cases where a neighbor says, "Hey, there was a funny looking craft over your house." And the person says, "Oh my God," because they've had an abduction experience. In a famous case, A UFO was tracked by virtually all the media in a northeasterly direction, and abductees reported experiences that corresponded with the media tracking of the UFOs. In other words, you've got to take this entire set of phenomena together if you're going to account for this. Art, is there any way at all to prevent being abducted? Mac, people try to develop ways of doing that, but my people have not been too successful. But also, one of the most curious things about this is that the phenomenon, in my experience, changes over time. As the person goes deep into his experience and acknowledges the reality of it, and demands in some cases a more reciprocal, more equal relationship with the alien beings, the experience changes. It becomes more reciprocal, their tie would suffer. Is an exchange of information. People art, so UM.I.GHT submit to it but not often work alongside the aliens, or they feel they are part of some evolutionary tell anybody process in which this life is being planned. Mac, laughing, if you admit you for a future after human beings have had these experiences, it's another way of destroy the earth as a living system. In disqualifying you. Other words, they feel they are part of question from caller. What is your comment in some cosmic evolution process, and they people who have abduction experience see it are not themselves undergo some kind of spiritual fearful, compared to someone else with a similar al change. Then they participate in this experience but who is fearful or traumatized. Mac, the last case in my book is hybrid program much more willingly, and it becomes much less of a traumatic exp about a man in his late 30s who has what I would call an advanced state of consciousness, hard as that may be to believe. Art, kind of like learning to love the Ness. He is open to anything that is possible. Blee, he does not have to be in control, he Mac, that's one of the major Ks can let in experience. When he was 9 chins here. Is this simply an evil that years old, a huge UFO illuminated the car we've adapted to, or is this in some way that his mother was driving? His older spiritually evolutionary kind of phenometer and younger brother were in the car, and everybody was terrified except him. He was excited. He accepted it, and felt it may be that we are in some. There was a communication from the way so radically out of balance beings in the craft. Under hypnosis it with nature that this involves, as came out that he was actually taken up into the craft and given all kinds of info. Roan of the abductees put it, some kind of cosmic correction machine about the future and what he was supposed to do. There was nothing trow which we find unpleasant and matic about it at all. He was open and receptive. He had that kind of conscience which is inconsiderate from a Ness. I think people who are more closed human point of view in themselves, more wanting to maintain control of everything around them, are more likely to have a traumatic experience. A lot of people feel that it is. Ins. There seems to be some relation. Art, sounds like you believe that it is. Mac, I don't know. So many people ship between the evolution or state of when they go deeply into their experi consciousness of the abductee and the ins, stay with it, and go through nature of the experience. I know a woman who is a leader in 5, 6, 7, 8 sessions. And they understanding shamanism, consciousness come to the place that there's very great change, and evolutionary thinking whose spiritual growth, deep love between them and the alien beings. One of the men in abduction experiences from the beginning have been informational, with Lumimi book, Peter, talked about a lost brotherhood. A number of abductees news beings, not with these sort of tough have talked about this, the idea that we little grays. Derived from a common source, that we art, how many different types of beings have been described to you? We're separated, and that maybe that's Mac, about 5 kinds. But there are why they are humanoid, because we grew separately in some kind of evolution of people who have more information about beings or consciousness from some that than I do. Some people like Linda Mon divine source, and that this is a how know many more kinds. Mine having back together in the context of the been restricted to the little grays, the taller luminous beings, the reptilian look ecological crisis in the planet. Art, if you were faced with an abductioning ones, the praying mantis like Kriya yourself, Dr. Mac, with all you know tours, and various more human-looking about abductions, would you submit to it, ones that work alongside the other beings on the ships? Or would you run like hell? Mac, in one sense I'd sort of like to art, are there more men or women who know what it's like so I could authentically experience alien abduction? Mac, it seems fairly equal, but I think Kate it more easily for people. On the other hand, I think probably my credibility the men may have somewhat more trouble after dark page 12J reporting their experiences, because their all time dimensions collapsed into one is a little bit more shame connected with time, or something like that. The altered it. To be so helpless, so passively unable state alters the sense of space and time. To do anything is really terrible for both, and I think that's a much underappreciated women and men, but it is particularly aided fact. We are too ready to try to see traumatic or shameful for men. This thing literally as occurring in our physical. The first case in my book is about a Eichel universe, rather than expanding our man who, when he was 16, was with his notions of reality to other dimensions, friend in a Nash Rambler, sleeping, when other possible universes that are not simp beings came. The female being took ply our physical four-dimensional world. Him into a pod, and he described in a question from caller, what is the single macho way some sort of sexual encounter, weirdest or strangest aspect of the whole abduct, followed by the information that was shin phenomenon. Mac, I think it is the capacity of these given to him about the state of the earth. But under hypnosis this turned out to be beings, whatever they are, to create all much more humiliating. It was the more kinds of confusing theatrical elements. In typical cup put over his penis, and the other words, people will describe that, female being in charge that watched over while they are on the ship, suddenly part this said, you know, we're not here for of the ship will turn into a theater, or a sex, we're here to take your sperm. He found it really quite humiliating. It seems these beings or this art he modified the story when he told it Mac, which relates to the question species or whatever it is, the about hypnosis. His conscious recall, various alien beings, are cum cause he wanted to represent himself to himself and to me in a more favorable ing to the earth in response to light, was less accurate in my view than the fact that we seem to have what came out when he was relaxed undertaken it upon ourselves to hypnosis and bringing forth a much more typical account of being forced into the sit destroy the earth itself uation. It tends to counter the notion that hypnosis is distorting, because the conforist. Or suddenly they will find themselves ego did more distorting in that situ selves going down long corridors. The shin than the hypnosis. Inside of a ship can turn into something art, what is your thinking on the much larger, or much smaller? It's the question of these creatures being from capacity of this intelligence to manufacture dimensions. Tour experiences for people, for which we Mac, good question. Increasingly, cannot identify what dimensions they are. Physicists are looking at this question of occurring in. It's the degree to which they other dimensions. There is a physicist, seemed to be able to play with space-time, Ron Bryan, who sees in subatomic party physical reality that I find extraordinary. Please that you can't account for all of them art, Dr. Mac, what do you think will within the subatomic physics we have in finally put this thing in a box, so we can the four-dimensional universe, and that understand it? Will it be physical evidence, we need additional dimensions? Another, or do you think that these alternative areas man has written a book about other of research will finally prove to be the key dimensions that these beings could come to unlock all of this? From. That was originally Jacques Mac. For one thing, I think we need Vallée's idea, that they exist in a parallel to study how this shows up in other count universe and pass into our universe. That tries how widespread it is. And we need would tend to go against the idea that to create an atmosphere where people they are from this or that planet in one feel free to speak up and report there or another galaxy. It may be that they experiences, where abductees are not so exist in some dimensions that we don't afraid that they are going to lose their jobs even understand. Or be humiliated. I'd like to see many abductees will often say, as they recall more clinicians and psychiatrists come their experiences, that this is not occur into this. Indeed, I am getting many more ring in space-time as I know it. They letters from psychiatrists and psycholo find it very difficult to put into words, but just who have cases and who are beginth message is consistent. One woman put ning to recognize the syndrome and not after dark page 13 put people in particular pigeonholes. I think we need to establish, for once and for all, that there is no obvious psychological explanation for this by doing careful psychological assessments. Art, I take it you don't think that these aliens are dangerous to us? That they are basically benign, Dr. Mac, I don't know. We human beings tend to be kind of species-centered, in an egotistical way. I think it may be that they are, from our point of view, neither benign nor malignant. It may be that we are in some way so radically out of balance with nature that this involves, as one of the abductees put it, some kind of cosmic correction which we find unpleasant and which is inconsiderate from a human point of view. Yet, when you consider the fact that human beings are the cause of the complete elimination of countless living species every day, the fact that we might be in some ways inconvenienced by another force that's involved in some sort of cosmic correction is hardly of great moment compared with the destruction that we bring on the earth on any given day. Art, would it be your view that our industrial society has gone the wrong route in development? Mac, there is something a little bizarre about the idea that one species would appropriate to itself the entire earth, divide it up into sections and call those countries and claim that we own it. Native peoples haven't been quite as territorial as we are, but it is rather strange that this species should treat the earth that way. It is creating some kind of a ripple that is extending beyond the earth. This seems very hard to believe, that anything we did to the earth could have an effect beyond the earth and bring forth some kind of reaction, but that seems to be what is going on. It seems these beings or the species or whatever it is, the various alien beings, are coming to the earth in response to the fact that we seem to have taken it upon ourselves to destroy the earth itself. Art, thank you, Dr. Mac. To find out more to obtain a copy of Art Bell's Complete with Dr. John Mack, $20.50 number 9,408,140 postpaid, call 1-800-917-42783 hour for 3 tapes, interview program for Visa and MasterCard orders. Dr. Simply mail your check or money order to Chancellor Broadcasting Co., 744 East Pine Street, Central Point, Oregon, 97502. Dr. John Mack's book Abduction, Human Encounters with Aliens is published by Ballantine Books and is available in both hardcover and paper book at most bookstores. Behind the Scenes. The Mysterious Birth of After Dark by A1 and Cotbed 1, President, CBCSO. There we are, all sitting around chewing the fat, when someone comes up with the following bright idea: hey, let's offer an Art Bell newsletter. When I hear anyone say, hey, let's do this, or let's do that, or why not sell these, or how about promoting those, suddenly I'm hit with a wave of memories. I become a kid again, back in elementary school. I visualize those days when I actually went home for lunch between the hours of 11:45 and 12:45, where I would sneak over to the TV set and see what was showing on Hollywood Matinee. This was an afternoon film presentation hosted by a guy named Ed Murphy. Well, old Ed sure seemed to know a lot about movies. As a matter of fact, Ed knew more about Hollywood and the illustrious silver screen than anyone. At least he did in the eyes of this 11-year-old kid. Anyway, by about 12:30 or so, old Ed would interrupt whatever was on and spend a minute or two explaining to us, the vast viewing audience, what was about to take place on today's Hollywood Matinee. Ed's revelations had an immediate effect of my health. If he was about to show Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers in some boring old love junk, the set was switched off and I gobbled down a second lunch, and actually looked forward to going back to school and sitting in Miss Schatz's class wrestling with long division. If, on the other hand, I learned that John Wayne was about to take on the entire German Army Panzer Division, or that Mickey Rooney was going to be on as Andy Hardy, that was it. Suddenly I began to feel ill. My pulse would weaken. My skin would become clammy. My little greedy tummy would convulse with some unknown malady, and always held in reserve, if all else failed, was the dreaded dio-1 What kid could possibly be sent back to school if he had diarrhea? Anyway, when I learned it was Mickey Rooney, the following drama would repeat itself in my house, as it had so many times before. I would collapse into a chair, eyes half closed, clutch my stomach with one hand, and put the other one to my forehead. Now, you need to understand that I was not a quiet kid. If I wasn't fighting with my sister, I was arguing with the kids on the street about how the New York Yankees would kill the Boston Red Sox, or that the US Army was much better than the US Navy. You know, very important kid stuff. Therefore, it just took about 3 minutes of silence to produce a concerned stare from my mother. So I'd be lying in the chair, looking very sorry for myself, telling her about my headache, my stomachache, my pending fever, and the dizziness, and how I wasn't sure how I was going to the newsletter. Needless to say, is lots of work and represents the efforts of many people who do quite a bit more than look pretty in the chorus line. Make it back to school. Sometimes, depending upon my performance, I'd be allowed to stay home for the afternoon. I was a lucky kid. My family was the only family I knew that didn't keep the TV set in the living room. In those days it wasn't like it is now. People did not have TVs in the bedroom, the kitchen, the kids' room, the garage, and so on. Back then, people had one very expensive black and white TV set that broke a lot. It was usually kept in the living room. It was, unfortunately, one of the main centers of interest in the house. A conversation piece, an icon. On those afternoons, Mom would invariably say, "Well, if you're sick, go up to your room, get into your pajamas, and get in bed." This I would do, with pleasure. You see, I knew that my mother went shopping every afternoon, and then got busy downstairs with the normal household chores. Cooking, baking, Mom's baked in those days, ironing, washing, and all the things that made being a housewife one very difficult job. It still is. Anyway, up I'd go, and within about 5 minutes after she came up to see if I was comfortable, I'd run into my mother and father's bedroom, and switch on Hollywood Matinee. After dark page 14 and there they'd be, Mickey Rooney, Judge Hardy, Judy Garland, and the rest of the Andy Hardy gang. At some point in most of these films, when the kids needed money, or if they wanted to support a charity, or to help someone, one of the kids would get a brainstorm and proclaim, "Hey, I've got an idea. Let's do a show." Magically, performers would instantly appear, great musicians with backup singers, an entire dance troupe choreographed to excellence. Magicians, conjurers, stand-up comics, you name it, it was all there, and it would all go off without a hitch. The show would be great. It wasn't until later on in life that I discovered that having an idea and actually getting it to work were two entirely different matters. That's why, when someone here at CBC said let's start a newsletter, I was somewhat skeptical, to say the least. I was even more skeptical when I was told that the newsletter would hardly have any effect on our day-to-day operation. Well, that statement has become one of the standing jokes around the office. You know, like where's Vietnam, or who is this Saddam Hussein anyway? The newsletter, needless to say, is lots of work and represents the efforts of many people who do quite a bit more than look pretty in the chorus line. As I've always tried to give you behind-the-scenes information, allow me a few minutes to tell you a little bit about some of the main players. Of course, Art Bell is the editor-in-chief, and in addition to writing his monthly article, he looks over the entire publication and makes sure that it represents the texture of both of his shows, Coast to Coast AM and Dreamland. Our editor is David Kupelian. David is an award-winning journalist with over 15 years magazine and newspaper experience under his belt. He's also a very interesting guy. Someday I'm going to write more about him. Before turning to journalism, David spent 10 years as a professional classical violinist and teacher, and also as a performing jazz violinist and pianist. Incidentally, he also owned a 1969 Les Paul standard guitar and a '69 Fender Stratocaster, but he sold them instead of giving them to me. Yes, I admit it, I'm a rock and roll, rockabilly guitar fanatic, but that's another story for another time. David writes feature Artie, a daily talk show on the talk radio CBC LTAN affiliate update Cleese for After Dark, edits others, and Gen Network with Bob Just and Gary Canopy. Errol Lee brings the contents of the newslet called The Big Radio Show. I'm Sure by Julian Hudson, Director, Affiliate Relations Together. Many of you heard Lisa when she and her David Masters is our art director, and colleagues filled in for Art when he was well. We told you last month that by the time you read actually does the layout and design of the On Vacation. Over the years, Lisa has this. Last month's issue Art will be on over 200 affiliates for coast to coast alone. And he is the giant in Los entire newsletter. He's the guy who worked for some of the top advertising Angelus, KMPC 710, now carries Art from midnight to 5 a.m. makes it look the way it is. David M. is agencies in Chicago and San Francisco. PST Tuesday through Saturday mornings rolling us into graphic artist with tons of talent, and she's also the female TRN voice that the third century. Good news, if you happen to live near many awards for his innovative work. Plays throughout many of our programs, Oklahoma City. Please write and thank WKY for continuing until recently. He was also one half of a Including Arts. About 4 years ago she with Art overnights and Dreamland on Sundays. Two-person talk show team on the Talk moved to Oregon for a quieter life. Incidentally, the network as a whole, TRN/CBC, now totals over 300 affiliates combined. Thanks for all your support, Radio Network. That's the best one yet. And remember, if Art is not on in your town, find out which Robert Just is our political editor. Just one of Lisa's hobbies is taking ballet or the hot talk stations in your area. Call me, and you can Bob, as we call him, edits Art's articles, classes from the Miss Louise School of Write to them while we send them a media kit, interviews other guests who appear in the dance right here in Central Point. I think please welcome the following affiliates, newsletter, and is part of a 3-person she's taking this chorus line thing a little KMPC Los Angeles CA 710 team who do a show on the talk radio too seriously. Hey, Lise, it's just a joke. Camp EI Centro CA 1430 network called The Big Radio Show. Wait a minute. Maybe life will even WDEL Wilmington to 1150 and writes advertising copy for CBC. Twilly imitate Art over here. Maybe the WGL FMFT Wayne in 94.1 Dorothy Baker is our copy editor. WGLL Auburn in 102.3 workers will spontaneously break into Dorothy is the lady everyone calls upon song and dance and hit the road with the Warra Attleboro Ma 1320 WEGP Presque Isle Me 1390 whenever a question about the English Art Bell Follies. In this business, nothing festus mo 1400 language arises. She has edited all sorts of is like you expect. Just like checking your KJCFKWOC Poplar Bluff mo 930 books and publications over the years, mailbox for this newsletter. Have you and is a big help to all of us. I think the ever really gotten it exactly when you WSTP Salisbury NC 1490 Quan Bartles Yale OK 1400 only thing she doesn't edit is my column. Expected it? I don't think so. KTIX Pendleton or 1240 can't you tell? Everything else looks lit. WXCO Wausau WI 1230 Erie. Dorothy's a great person, very WAYY Eau Claire WI 1150 amusing, and an inspiration to all of us. She just celebrated her 80th birthday. We expect her to be here for her 90th. As AC, I've the C, IFT that C, Lowe's After Dark. Matter of fact, we insist. Kathy Price has been our customer service coordinator, overseeing the processing of all newsletter and tape orders, and dealing directly with customers, solving their problems when they occur. Send orders and letters to. Kathy has worked as a medical and dental CBC 744 Epine St. Central Point or 97502 office manager, owned her own window treatment business, and is the mother of 1 year $29.95, 2 years $57.90, 3 years $85.85, 2 children. Recently promoted to 1 I want to 5 VB5 Cribe 2 After Dark. Of our office supervisory positions, Kathy Ple 5E5 and AIFT 5 VB5 Crypt T0N/Tape 52, will continue to monitor the customer VLSA/MasterCard #XJI.DAL8, service area. Incidentally, our new customer service coordinator is Teresa 2 Myers, who has already rolled up her address, sleeves and is doing a great job. Brian Saylor is our information state, city, zip systems manager. Brian keeps all the from, various computer systems operating, gift givers complete the section, address, processes credit card orders, maintains our data bank, and generally keeps all the state, city, .zip information systems running. If your price I want to order tapes #not getting your newsletter, it's probably Brian's fault. Just kidding. Brian is also Price, our chief engineer. Price Lisa Trushin edits my articles and helps with other editing as required. She total writes copy and works with me on the general sound of the networks. Lisa does AFTR0N After Dark page 15 DARK, Hiroshima, continued. Of course, there are many other factors that support the use of nuclear force, including urgency. An imminent Russian invasion could have divided Japan as Germany was divided. We can only imagine what a communist North Japan would have done to the balance of power in Asia during the Cold War. The choice to drop the atomic bomb was inevitable and right. Those who doubt it, and who have spent their lives propagandizing succeeding generations to feel personal guilt about Hiroshima, are for the most part the same people who grasp at any opportunity to demoralize America. Of course, America has done wrong at various times in its history, but crushing a totalitarian, militaristic Japan with the atom bomb is not on that list. It ended a horrid war decisively and kept thousands of young Americans from a death struggle. And I'm very glad that it did. So was my father, who would have been one of those forced to take Japan inch by bloody inch. AFTER, HA Bob continued. At 11:15 I said that we needed to check the object for motion and should watch it for an hour. The group observed it change position against the star field over that period, and at 12:25 I decided to drive home and report R. At 8:25 a.m. July 23, 1995 Daniel Green of the Harvard-Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory telephoned and said, "Congratulations Tom, I believe you discovered a new Cornell finding." Arriving at home, initial attempts to send the telegram were unsuccessful due to an incomplete address I had. After searching my library I was able to locate the correct address and confirmation was requested. At 8:25 a.m. July 23, 1995 Daniel Green of the Harvard-Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory telephoned and said, "Congratulations Tom, I believe you discovered a new comet." And that was one of the most exciting moments of my life. At about the same time Bob was citing and confirming the existence of this new comet described as diffuse with some condensation and no tail, motion toward the west-northwest. Alan Hale was independently discovering the same thing. "I love the irony," says Hale. "I've spent over 400 hours of my life looking for comets, and haven't found anything, and now, suddenly, when I'm not looking for one, I get one dumped in my lap." Hale recalls the circumstance. "I had obtained an observation of P/Clark earlier, and needed to wait an hour or so before P/D'Arrest got high enough to look at, and was just passing the time till then, and I decided to look at some deep sky objects in Sagittarius. When I turned to M70, I saw a fuzzy object in the same field, and almost immediately suspected a comet, since I had been looking at M70 last month, and knew there weren't any other objects there. By the way, about those Earth changes. The comet that many credit with wiping out the dinosaurs was 5 miles in diameter. Hale-Bopp is 1,000 miles in diameter. That would really hurt. David Kupelian bulk rate US postage DL paid permit number 348 Medford, or DARC CBC 744 East Pine Street Central Point, or 97502 Customer ID, 05662 Violet Roden 2716 West Vela Avenue Spokane, Washington, 99208 456611111, 1111111.111, 1111111, 11111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111. Do not read until after dark.